Good morning. Welcome to Viking Preparedness. I am Pastor Joe Fox. VTAC Coffee, Berserker brand. Good, strong. I should like to discuss this morning, and I'm getting a late start, and I look like this because it was a long night. I would like to discuss medical, all things medical. For you and yours, your crew, your homestead, all the things. And so let's just get into my night a little bit. Well, before that, we had a good Shabbat. Gordy from Arkansas Preparedness Network paid us a visit. That was nice. It's always nice to see him. Got to hang out, do a little bit of catching up. One of the things we talked about, unrelated to medical, is my concept, because he has a national concept. Um, I don't think it aligns directly with mine, which doesn't make it good or bad, right? I'm just saying. I don't think it's exactly like mine. But I was explaining to him that my concept is not some grandiose plan to be able to tell people I have a national Viking network. It's not about that. It's all about forming mags, crews. I like calling them crews. It kind of goes with the Viking boat theme. Teams of people who have like-minded interest, preparedness, who get along personally, and who live approximate to one another, close to each other. And so when we have these Viking meetups, I was explaining it to him, but now I'm explaining it to you again. When we have these Viking meetups, the Viking groups, as I call them, the regional groups that exist, and more are starting to pop up. Um, I want them to be fun. I want them to be educational. I want people to learn stuff and get motivated when they go to them. But most importantly, I would like you Vikings to meet other people and find the ones that you can kludge with, antennas touch and go, yes, I could get along with this person, um, and who you live nearby. Because in the event of some untoward disaster, you are not driving 6 hours to meet up with your team. You're just not gonna. You need to meet people, find people, make people, meaning convert them to the way of preparedness near you. Or option B, my hands are dirty. Option B, um, you need to have a plan as a crew, team, to in the advance of troubles. I need more coffee. But as troubles start brewing, the whole team comes together on the farm or the ranch or the campground to live. So that when the balloon goes up, you're all together living in your thing. And then that means, you need housing and logistics and all that stuff. Um, but the reality is, if you can't walk there, man, I think your chances are starting to diminish greatly of working together. So we talked about that. I was up late last night. I actually went to bed and fell asleep fairly early, but then our male ridgeback started shaking his head, blah, 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 blah. And he's been kind of favoring his head. He usually barrels his way through doors, and he hasn't been doing that lately. And he was whining, but he wasn't scratching it. He won't let us touch his ear and look into it because we were thinking maybe he had a big old tick in there or something. But last night he just started going flop, 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 flop. Like, come on, man. And finally he let me get my hand up underneath his chin into his ear and then just kind of rub on the underside of his ear like that. He let me do that. But when we tried to look in it, he would move his head too much. It looked a little red and nasty. And then my hand, whoo, it stunk when it was done. My wife thinks, Sister Kate thinks he has ear mites. We had some ear mite medicine before, but our house is in disarray again because we're trying to finish off the last stages. So everything that was here that belongs here has to go here now, and while we're working in here, and so the house is kind of trashed. Um, Place for everything and everything in its place, which is going to come full circle back to medical. So we don't know where that is. So probably taking him to the vet today, um, because he's just not happy. And as long as there's a vet and we can go and we can't deal with it at home, we're going to try. Also, going to the vet today, my daughter is going with her. She has a few cats of various states of ownership. Some are hers, some just live outside and have adopted her, and some wander the neighborhood. Um, anyway, one of them showed up last night with a broken upper arm. No idea how that happened. So they're taking that cat to the vet. My wife said, I could probably splint it, but let's go to the vet. And any of y'all have ducks? You know what bumblefoot is? I didn't either. My wife bought these ducks from some guy, same person that Home Skillet bought ducks from. And we're talking medical animals now, by the way. Um, Veterinarian care. It's medical care for critters. Um, Bought them from the same place that Home Skillet bought her chickens from. And I guess he just had a bazillion birds in a really tight space and bad living conditions. Anyway, my daughter got a duck from him, a few, and one of them had this thing called bumblefoot, which to my understanding is the bottom of the foot gets this big cyst thing in it. And so they used YouTube and they got online. And basically what they did was soak this duck's foot in Epsom salts. How do you manage that? I don't know. Warm water, and then take a scalpel, cut it, and it's like a big boil or something. I don't know. And then treat it with stuff. So they did that for a couple days, um, attempting to provide medical care for the duck. And it didn't work that good, so they took it to the vet, and the vet gave them like duck antibiotics or something. And it seemed to be on the med. Well, the other day, like yesterday or the day before, one of our ducks came down with a bumblefoot. Now, it wasn't nearly as advanced stages as my daughter's. And my wife said she thought she was going to treat it last night. I think she took it up to my daughter's house. My daughter has electricity and good lights and running hot water and all that stuff, so it was just easier. And the scalpel's there, and they were going to do something, but then she came home and said, probably going to take the duck and the cat to the vet today, and then our dog last night. So that, it's going to be the farm going to the vet today. So animal care. Do you have critters? And if so, can you provide them medical care? Now, I know I just told you we're taking 3 critters to the vet, but to varying degrees, we could or have taken care of similar things. Do you have the tools? My daughter called when she first started working on her duck's bumblefoot a couple weeks ago, and she said, "Do you have gauze and scissors and dun, dun, dun?" And I'm like, wait a minute. You should have all that stuff at your house. What's going on? Now we're getting into human care. And she said, I do. I have a couple robust first aid kits. I don't think she said robust. But I don't want to use them. Oh, you don't want to use your stuff. You want to use my stuff. I get it. But it brings up a good point. Do you have your stuff separated into veterinarian stuff, animal critter stuff, and human stuff? Might not be a bad idea. We have right now, what we're running is a big toolbox. I would show you, but I have coffee in my hand. A big toolbox with a bunch of supplies in it. But then we also have a tote bin full of medical supplies right now, like gauze and Curlex and tape and stuff like that. The bin is not full. We're starting to fill it. And so, yeah, we just get some of that when we need it for the critters. Gauze is gauze, tape is tape. But you do have to store it somewhere. Before I get to that, let's back up over here. We're kind of done with animals right now, but you need the stuff to care for your animals, and you need the knowledge to care for your animals. And I submit that you need the reference material. Right now, you can use the internet. I mean, the internet's a wonderful tool, and you can find out how to deal with almost anything. But as soon as the electricity goes off, not to return, that's possible, right? Um, what do you have for reference materials? Uh, Probably not a horrible idea for printing things out, arranging them in notebooks, and filing them. Not a pile of papers with a staple in the corner on your desk, but actually filed um, in your library, your medical library. My medical library is at High Prairie Acres right now. And I have some pretty good vet books that we have used in the past. I've been thinking about that lately. Um, but yeah, reference material so that you can deal with things. You know, now as far as Bumblefoot goes, I'm just using it as an example because it's kind of gross and it's rather involved. We really don't need the reference material for that anymore. They've read it all and they've actually put their hand to the task. And then they went and saw a vet who said, yeah, you did pretty much what I was going to do, which is what she said, but here's some antibiotics. Okay, so they got that. Um, One pretty good idea is to have dosing information for the various medicines and write that down. You might forget that. Okay, let's talk about humans. I've talked before about your medical skills. And I would submit that unless you are an emergency surgeon currently for your profession, you don't have enough medical skills. You can always learn more. Again, if you're an emergency, medical, did I say medical surgeon? I meant emergency surgeon, like emergency room surgeon. Um, those are pretty high speed dudes and dudettes. Emergency room nurses, some of my favorite people in the world. Um, Hard, compassionate, but hard. You gotta be when you hurt people every day for their good. I love emergency room nurses. Um, but unless you're doing that for a job, you don't know enough medical stuff. So, in your long range planning, you can fit things in. Training, it's important. References are important, but when somebody is laying in front of you with a sucking chest wound, that is not time to open up the book, right? The reading and the studying and the manuals comes for emergencies before the fact. And for things like Bumblefoot, yeah, that's not going to die in the next hour. You can read about it and deal with it. Same thing with a person. Person's Bumblefoot, big cyst on somebody. What are you going to do with that? You can look that up if you have the reference material. Now you need your stuff, medical stuff, individual stuff. Bayer Independent has the Bayer IFAK. It's a good kit. I've had my hands on one. I'm gonna do a review. He and Cody at Sojourn Gear are making some tweaks to it, but I've already seen it, and it's good. And I get to keep one, which makes me really happy. But it's a robust IFAK, individual first aid kit / blowout kit, which is a kit designed to treat gunshot wound. One, typically, gunshot wound. Those are kind of popular right now. In the community, the larger prepper community, right? People are getting those. I wonder how much training they actually have. There's excellent training online on that. How to do a tension pneumothorax. Stick a 14 gauge needle in there and do it. But I wonder how many people have actually gotten on a mannequin and done it, or simulated it to the best they can with people, so that they're very confident to do it in the dark when it's raining and people are shooting right over there and this person is gasping. Right? Having the gear, just like everything else, just having the gear doesn't make you good, right? You have to know how to use it, and ideally you need to practice with it under varying conditions. What's TCCC, Tactical Combat Casualty Care? Somebody just wrote to me that they want to come visit And if I didn't get back to you, you need to write me back. Man, I get a lot of email, but I wanted to write back to you. I thought I did though. But somebody just went to a TCCC course and liked it, so that's good. Um, you need training. You need gear. Here's the thing. I've said it before. A blowout kit will fix like one wound. Now what? In a grid down, world without rule of law, Tiawaki situation, your troubles are just starting, right? You know, blowout kits, IFAKs, are designed to the golden hour. If you can keep the person alive, we can get them to medical care, a surgery ward, and do basic life-saving care on them. And then, if we have to, we have the assets, the United States, to then transport them to like Landstuhl, Germany, or Brooks Army Medical Center, or something like that, right? And we have hospital planes that can work on them while they're doing that. And so the country has a lot of huge medical assets. You don't have that. So when your buddy Bubba, I was trying to come up with a last name that starts with a B for alliteration, but when your buddy Bubba gets shot and you whip out your excellent Bear IFAK and keep him from dying right there, now what? Now what? Right? Um, and so kits are important. Generally speaking, for first aid kits, I'm not talking like tactical IFAKs and things like that, but your standard home first aid kit, which you should have a couple of, and they should be robust. Generally speaking, you can build them cheaper than you can buy them. Meaning, you know, you look at the average home first aid kit and it has 2 or 3 4x4 gauzes, some tape, a cheap pair of plastic scissors, a box of band-aids, you know, a lot of stuff you don't need, chapstick, you know, whatever. In a first aid kit, you don't need it. Dun, 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 dun. It's like, yeah, you could just go buy all that stuff and build 3 kits for a lot less money, generally. There is one though, and I don't know, did I review it here? Did I show it to y'all? It doesn't matter. They sell it at Walmart in the medical section, you know, like where the reading glasses and stuff are. And it's this big, comes in a plastic box this big. It costs $4.95, and it is chock full of good stuff. I call it my boo-boo kit. I bought one for me and one for each kid. Told them to keep it in a glove box. Here's why. I was on a range one time teaching a combat shotgun, defensive shotgun course, and somebody ripped their thumb open, and it was bleeding pretty good. And so I had a first aid kit. I have a big trauma kit. It's like an EMT kit designed for embassies. And so I go to my car to get that out. Another guy had a big trauma kit, like he had an EMT bag in his car, and we're like, oh, we get to use our gear. Meanwhile, this guy's like bleeding down his thumb, right? He just wants a band-aid on it so he can continue to train. And so I go in there, I pull out this kit,